I had been begging my parents for months to let me have a sleepover. When they finally said yes for my 13th birthday, I invited my 3 best friends, Emma, Zoe, and Lily. By evening, the house was filled with laughter, pizza boxes, blankets, and way too much candy. My house sat at the edge of a forest, and once the sun went down, the trees looked like giant black shadows pressing against the windows. I tried not to think about it. Around midnight, we started telling ghost stories. Lily leaned toward us and lowered her voice. My grandma always says that if you wake up at exactly 3:33 in the morning during a sleepover, don't count how many people are sleeping in the room. Emma laughed. Why not? Lily swallowed. Because sometimes you'll count someone who wasn't invited. We all laughed, but none of us found another story to tell after that. Soon, we climbed into our sleeping bags. I switched off the light, and the room fell completely silent except for the wind brushing the trees outside. Eventually, I fell asleep. I don't know what woke me. At first, I thought it was the cold. My room felt freezing. Then I noticed the red glow of my alarm clock. 3:33 a.m. I immediately remembered Lily's story. I rolled my eyes at myself. "It's just a story," I whispered. Then I heard breathing. Slow, steady. There should have been 4 of us. Instead, I could hear 5 different breaths. I held my own breath and listened. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A chill ran through my body. I slowly sat up. Moonlight spilled through my curtains, barely lighting the room. I counted the sleeping bags. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was all. I sighed in relief. Then something whispered right beside my ear. "Count again." I froze. The voice hadn't sounded angry. It sounded amused. My hands shook as I grabbed my flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. Emma was asleep. Zoe was asleep. Lily was asleep. My sleeping bag was by the window. Everything looked perfectly normal, until I pointed the flashlight toward the corner of the room. There was another sleeping bag. Old, gray, dirty. Someone was inside it. I could see the shape of a person lying perfectly still. My heart slammed against my chest. I blinked. The sleeping bag was gone. I convinced myself I had imagined it. I stood up anyway. As I crossed the room, my foot landed on something hard. I looked down. An old photograph. It wasn't mine. The picture showed my bedroom, except it wasn't exactly my bedroom. The wallpaper was different. The furniture looked decades older. 5 children smiled at the camera from their sleeping bags. Behind them stood another child. His face had been scratched away so hard that the paper had nearly torn. Written across the back in faded ink were 4 words. "Don't count him twice." I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. Very slowly, I looked up. Someone was sitting against my bedroom wall. At first, I thought it was Lily, but Lily was still asleep. This girl had long black hair hanging over her face. She wasn't moving. She wasn't breathing. I couldn't even tell if she was real. Then she slowly turned her head toward me. Her hair slipped aside. I'd never seen her before. Her skin was pale. Her smile stretched far wider than it should have. "You counted," she whispered. The flashlight flickered. When it came back on, she was gone. I screamed. Everyone woke up at once. Emma switched on the bedside lamp. "What happened?" she asked. I looked around the room. There were only 4 sleeping bags. Only my 3 friends. No photograph. No strange girl. Nothing. I had a nightmare, I lied. None of us went back to sleep. The next morning, everything felt normal again. We packed our bags, laughed about scary stories, and promised to do another sleepover soon. I almost believed I'd imagined the whole thing. Then, While cleaning my room, I found the old photograph tucked under my bed. This time, there were only 4 children in it. But in the background, reflected in the bedroom mirror, stood a blurry figure smiling directly at me. On the back was a sentence I was certain hadn't been there before. "Next time, don't wake up at 3:33. I never had another sleepover in that room. Sometimes, though, I still wake in the middle of the night. The clock always reads 3:33, and before I open my eyes, I count the breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then, 5. I never look to see who the 5th person is. The first time I had a sleepover at my friend Ava's house, I thought it would be the best night of the summer. There were 5 of us: me, Ava, Chloe, Maya, and Brooke. We spent the evening making popcorn, playing games, and daring each other to explore the dark hallway upstairs. Ava's parents laughed when they heard us screaming over every little noise. "It's just an old house," Ava's dad said. "It makes strange sounds." I believed him. At least, I did at first. Around midnight, Ava's mom brought us hot chocolate before heading to bed. "Lights out by 1, she said. As soon as we heard their bedroom door close downstairs, Chloe grinned. "Who wants to play hide and seek in the dark?" Everyone agreed. I wish I hadn't. Ava counted while the rest of us scattered. I ran upstairs and slipped into the guest bedroom. It was empty, except for an old rocking chair and a wardrobe. The moonlight shining through the curtains made everything look gray. I crouched inside the wardrobe and pulled the door almost shut. The only sound was the ticking of an old clock somewhere in the house. Then, the rocking chair creaked. Back. Forward. Back. Forward. I peeked through the crack in the wardrobe door. The chair was moving. No one was sitting in it. I held my breath. Maybe I'd bumped it. Then it stopped. I relaxed until a voice whispered from inside the wardrobe beside me. "Don't let her find you." I spun around. No one was there. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. "Ava," I whispered. No answer. The footsteps stopped outside the room. The doorknob slowly turned. I smiled. Nice try. The door opened. But it wasn't Ava. A little girl stood in the hallway wearing a faded blue nightgown. She looked about 8 years old. She smiled at me. "You're hiding in my room." Before I could answer, she walked away. I waited a few seconds before stepping out. The hallway was empty. I ran downstairs. Everyone was sitting in the living room. "Where have you been?" Maya asked. "I just saw a little girl upstairs." Everyone stared at me. Ava frowned. "My parents are asleep." "No, another girl." Brooke laughed. "You were probably looking in a mirror." They all laughed, except Ava. She looked worried. Later that night, we spread our sleeping bags across the living room floor. None of us mentioned the girl again. At exactly 2:47 a.m., I woke to the sound of giggling. Soft, childlike. It came from the staircase. I sat up. Someone was standing on the top step. A little girl. The same blue nightgown. She wasn't moving. She was just watching us. I rubbed my eyes. She was still there. Then she slowly lifted one finger to her lips. Shh. The hallway light went out. For 1 second, everything was completely dark. When the light flickered back, she was standing halfway down the stairs. I shook Ava awake. "Someone's in your house." She opened her eyes and looked toward the stairs. Her face turned white. "You can see her?" I nodded. Ava whispered, "Don't blink." I tried not to. My eyes burned. Finally, I blinked. Just once. When I opened them, the girl was gone. The front door slammed shut. Every window in the house rattled. Upstairs, every bedroom door opened at the same time. Then they all slammed shut. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. None of us moved. The silence that followed felt even worse. Then we heard tiny footsteps running across the ceiling. Not walking, running. Back and forth. Laughing the entire time. Morning finally came. Ava's parents said they hadn't heard anything all night. We didn't argue. As we packed our bags, I noticed an old framed photograph hanging in the hallway. It showed Ava's house nearly 100 years ago. Standing on the front porch was a family. 2 parents, 3 children, and 1 little girl wearing a blue nightgown. I pointed at her. "Who's that?" Ava's mom looked at the picture. "Oh, that's strange." "What?" She frowned. "I've lived here for 10 years. I've never noticed that little girl before." I never went back for another sleepover. Sometimes Ava still texts me. She says strange things happen in the house. Footsteps, giggling, doors opening on their own. But one message she sent still gives me chills. It was just one sentence. The girl says she's excited for your next visit because she doesn't like saying goodbye twice. I never should have agreed to the sleepover. It started with a text from my friend Mia. Sleepover at my house. Friday. My parents are out of town. You in? I almost said no. I had homework, and honestly, I hated sleeping anywhere except my own room. But everyone else was going. By 8 p.m., there were 5 of us crammed into Mia's upstairs bedroom, eating pizza, watching terrible horror movies, and daring each other to look into the dark hallway outside her room. Around midnight, the power flickered. "Probably the storm," Mia said. The lights came back on a second later, but something felt off. Her dog, Rusty, had been sleeping beside the bed all evening. Now he stood frozen at the bedroom door, staring into the hallway. His ears flattened. Then he whimpered. "What's wrong with him?" I asked. Nobody answered. A loud thump echoed downstairs. We all laughed nervously. Mia's cat probably knocked something over. "But the cat died last year," Mia whispered. The room went silent. Another thump. This time it sounded like footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Coming up the stairs. We stared at the bedroom door. One step. Another. Another. The hallway floor creaked just outside. Someone, or something, was standing on the other side. Then came 3 soft knocks. "Tap! Tap! Tap! Mia!" A woman's voice called. It sounded exactly like Mia's mom. Mia's face went white. My mom's in Florida. Nobody moved. The voice came again. "Mia, open the door." Rusty began growling so deeply I'd never heard a dog make a sound like that before. His growl suddenly stopped. He tucked his tail between his legs and crawled under the bed. Whatever was outside had scared him. One of my friends, Josh, whispered, "Maybe someone's playing a prank." Before anyone could stop him, he walked over and looked through the crack beneath the door. He froze. "What do you see?" I whispered. He slowly backed away. "There are feet." "So?" "They're backwards." Every hair on my body stood up. The knocking became harder. Bang, bang, bang. "Mia, bang, open, bang." Bang. Door. The bedroom lights flickered again. Then they went out completely. The room plunged into darkness. Only our phone screens lit our terrified faces. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text. No number. Just a message. "Don't look under the bed." I stared at it. At the exact same moment, everyone else's phones buzzed. Josh whispered, "Did you guys get that too?" We all nodded. Rusty was still under the bed. Then he yelped. Not a bark. Not a growl. A scream. Something grabbed him. We heard claws scraping desperately across the floor. Then, nothing. Complete silence. I couldn't stop myself. I looked under the bed. There was no dog, just darkness, and 2 pale eyes staring back at me. They blinked. Then a smile slowly appeared. Not on a face, just a smile. floating in the dark. It whispered my name. I screamed and stumbled backward. The bedroom door exploded inward. We all expected something to rush inside. Instead, the hallway was empty. No footsteps. No person. Nothing. Just silence. Then Mia's house alarm started blaring. Police arrived 10 minutes later. They searched every room, every closet, the attic, the basement. No one was there. There were no footprints, no broken windows, no signs of anyone entering the house. Rusty was gone. They assumed he had escaped during the panic. We never found him. The next morning, I packed my bag to leave. As I zipped it shut, I noticed something folded inside. A piece of paper. In shaky handwriting, it read, "Thanks for looking under the bed." I threw it away before getting in my mom's car. I never told anyone about it. That was 6 years ago. Last week, I finally adopted another dog. The first night I brought him home, he refused to go into my bedroom. He stood in the hallway, staring at my bed, whimpering, just like Rusty had. When I bent down to see what he was looking at, my phone buzzed. One new message, no sender. You looked again. I still can't sleep in a room with the closet door open. People think it's because of what happened during that sleepover. They're wrong. It's because of what followed me home. I was 15 when my best friend, Ava, invited 6 of us to spend the night at her grandmother's old house. Her parents said the place had been empty for years, but it had electricity, running water, and enough bedrooms for everyone. The house sat alone at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by woods so thick the moon barely reached the ground. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not mold, not dust. Something sweet, like flowers left on a grave too long. Ava laughed when I mentioned it. My grandma loved lilies. I didn't know then that lilies are often used at funerals. By midnight, we were telling ghost stories in the living room. The power suddenly cut out. No warning. Everything went black. Our phones lit up one by one, casting pale light across frightened faces. Then we heard it. A child laughing. Not outside, not upstairs. Inside the walls. The laughter moved from one side of the room to the other, as if someone was crawling through the house itself. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. Then it stopped. A knock echoed from upstairs. 3 slow knocks. Another bedroom door slammed shut on its own. Ava tried to joke that the house was settling, but her voice shook. Then Emma frowned. Wait. What? There are only 6 of us, right? We counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We all laughed. Then I realized something. I hadn't counted myself. There were 6 people standing in front of me, which meant there should have been 7. I turned slowly. Someone was sitting in the rocking chair by the fireplace. A little girl. Long black hair covered her face. She wore an old white dress stained dark around the bottom. Nobody screamed. It was as if our bodies forgot how. She lifted one finger, pointed toward the staircase. Then she vanished. The rocking chair kept moving, back and forth, back and forth. We ran upstairs anyway, convinced we'd imagined it. Every bedroom was empty, except the last one. The door stood open. Inside was a tiny room with faded wallpaper covered in flowers. There was only one piece of furniture, a small wooden bed. On the pillow lay 7 framed photographs, one for each of us, and one extra. Every picture had been taken that night, while we were inside the house, eating pizza, laughing, telling stories, even though nobody had taken a single photo. The last picture showed all 6 of us, standing together in the living room. Behind us stood the little girl, smiling. Ava dropped the frame. The glass shattered. That's when every bedroom door slammed shut at once. Bang, bang, bang. Something began running through the hallway. Fast, too fast. The footsteps circled us over and over. then stopped outside the room. The doorknob turned slowly. Once, twice. Then the door opened. No one was there. Just a trail of wet footprints leading inside. Tiny footprints, like a child's. They stopped beside me. I felt someone breathing against my ear. A whisper. So warm. I ran. I don't remember making it downstairs. I only remember waking up outside with police lights flashing. A passerby had found us wandering along the road just before dawn. All 6 of us were alive, just terrified. The police searched the house. They found nothing. No little girl. No photographs. No footprints. Nothing. We never went back. The house burned down 3 months later after being struck by lightning. Everyone tried to move on, until the nightmares started. One by one, my friends stopped answering messages. Ava moved away. Emma disappeared from school. Josh died in a car accident. The others, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if they ever really existed. Last week, I finally decided to look through the old box of things from high school. At the bottom was a class photo from sophomore year. Everyone was there. Teachers, friends, me. I smiled for the first time in years. Then I noticed something. There were only 5 students in our friend group, not 6. Ava, Emma, Josh, Tyler, me. There was no 6th person. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't remember who I'd been counting that night. Then I turned the photo over. Written on the back in faded handwriting were 5 words. You still count me, don't you? As I read them, my phone camera opened by itself. I don't know why. The screen showed my face. Behind me, a little girl stood in my bedroom closet, smiling. I spun around. The closet was empty. When I looked back at my phone, she was gone. But someone else was standing behind me. Someone holding the phone. If anyone ever invites you to spend the night in a house that's older than everyone you know, just say no. I wish I had. It was the first weekend of summer when my friend Noah invited 5 of us to stay at his aunt's house in the countryside. His aunt had gone overseas for a month and told us we could have the place to ourselves, as long as we didn't go into the attic. Naturally, that's all we talked about. The house was huge. Every floor creaked. Every hallway seemed longer after dark. There were old family portraits everywhere, and no matter where I stood, it felt like the people in them were watching me. Around 11 p.m., we were playing hide and seek. I drew the short straw. I was it. I counted to 100 while everyone else ran. When I finished, the house was completely silent. No giggling. No footsteps. Nothing. I searched the kitchen. Empty. The basement. Empty. The living room. Empty. Then I heard a whisper upstairs. Come find us. I smiled. They're terrible at hiding, I muttered. I followed the voice to the 2nd floor. Every bedroom was empty. Then I noticed the attic door. It was open. Noah, I called. No answer. The attic ladder was already pulled down. I climbed up. The flashlight on my phone barely lit the room. Old furniture, boxes, cobwebs. Then I heard someone crying. It sounded like my friend Ethan. I'm over here. His voice came from behind an old wardrobe. I hurried over. No one? Ethan? I'm here. This time, his voice came from the opposite side of the attic. I turned. Still, no one. The crying continued. Moving. Always just out of sight. Then my phone buzzed. It was a group message from Noah. Where are you? I replied. The attic. Looking for Ethan. 3 dots appeared. Then Noah answered. Get out! We're all in the basement! Before I could respond, a hand landed on my shoulder. Ice cold. I spun around. Nobody. Then I heard breathing. Right behind me. Slow. Wet. The flashlight flickered. For 1 second, I saw someone standing inches from my face. Not a person. Something wearing a person's skin. Its smile stretched from ear to ear. Then the light went out. I don't remember getting down the ladder. I just remember falling into the hallway, screaming. Everyone came running. Noah slammed the attic door shut. We pushed a heavy dresser in front of it. "What happened?" he asked. "There was someone up there." "There can't be." "Why?" He swallowed. "Because," he pointed at the attic door. "There isn't an attic." I laughed. "What are you talking about? I was just..." He pulled out his phone and showed me the house listing his aunt had sent him. 2 floors. No attic. No 3rd level. We all stared at the ceiling. Then, knock, knock, knock. From above us. There was no room above us. The knocking grew louder. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Something heavy dragged itself across the floor overhead. Scrap. Then came footsteps, walking directly over our heads. We ran outside and stayed there until sunrise. When Noah's aunt came home, she was furious we'd made up stories. "There has never been an attic," she insisted. She even showed us the blueprints. She was right. The house had no attic, no crawl space, nothing above the 2nd floor except the roof. I thought that would be the end of it. A week later, I was looking through the photos on my phone. Most were blurry pictures from the sleepover. Then I found one I didn't remember taking. It showed all 6 of us standing outside the house the next morning. Everyone was smiling, except me. I was staring at an upstairs window. Someone was standing behind the glass, the thing from the attic. Its hand was resting on the window, waving. I zoomed in. That's when I realized something. It wasn't waving at me. It was waving. Goodbye. I looked up from my phone. My bedroom ceiling creaked. Then, for the first time since that night, I heard footsteps walking above me. I live in a 1-story house.